Good evening all, we're back again for another live stream Q&A session. This time, if we can keep the questions to sort of tuning related, so self-tuning, ECUs, mapping issues, mapping queries, mapping advice, rather than just the general open questions and answers session, then that would be amazing. There are thousands and thousands of people around the world that self-tune their own Subaru. So, it is a common thing to do. Not so common in the UK or across Europe, and in the States, a lot of people are either self-tuning or getting remote tunes from wherever their favourite tuning company is. Because the distances between the tuners is massive over there, and there might not be one local to them. In other parts of the world, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, again, people are going down the road of learning how to tune their own Subarus and doing it successfully. I run an academy on here, which is giving people advice and guidance on a more one-to-one basis, more detailed knowledge, just sharing what I've learned over the years. I tune Subarus for a living. I've been tuning Subarus for 19 years now. So if you don't know who I am, I'm in the UK, Duncan Graham, Race Dynamics. So, without further ado, if you've got questions, fire it at me. I've got nothing pre-prepared for tonight, so if you don't ask me any questions, I'll just sit here and blab, which no one wants. So if you've got a question for me, put a Q at the beginning of the comment, pop it in the live stream comment box, and I will do my best to either answer it directly or show you using my laptop and actually demonstrate or show you what I'm talking about, or try and answer the question using the actual mapping software. I can see we've got a few of the regulars here. It's interesting with these live streams to see where people come from. The reach of this goes right across the world. It's mind-blowing that people are staying up 3 o'clock in the morning in Australia, whatever it is, early morning, I suppose, in California, and lots of places in between. So yeah, it's very, very mind-blowing. So I do have one question already, not tuning related, but I will go into it while I'm waiting for an actual tuning related question. Right, hi Steve. I heard you mentioned in a previous week that you can do away with the breather one-way valve. What would be the correct piping to run to a catch can? Right, with the PCV valve on the back of the inlet manifold is troublesome. They can block up or stick open. So if you're having issues with it, or if you wanted to run a catch can, then if it's allowed in your country, then you can take that out, blank off the actual hole in the inlet manifold. I think it's an MPT thread, I believe, but you could just put a cap over the end of the PCV valve. But the breather that comes from the crank sort of area, or the crankcase, there's two pipes. One of those came through to the PCV valve, and the other one went into the inlet side of things. So generally speaking, the best setup if you're running a catch can is to have 3 inlets on the catch can, so one from each head and one from the catch can, from the crankcase, and have an outlet from the catch can that is at least the size combined area of those 3 breathers, so that you're not building up pressure. You can vent that back to atmosphere, or with a air oil separator, you could vent that back into the inlet pipe. So hopefully that answers it. Right, this might be a short session if I've got no questions. Right, okay. I know I've talked many times about how to self-tune and whatever, but the basic part of it is, you know, understanding the data login. You know, I did several videos on data login, plus it, you know, comes up in the live streams quite a lot. But the data login, use a Tatrix cable, buy an original proper one rather than one off Amazon or eBay. The cheaper ones don't tend to work properly and can cause some issues. But if you buy a Tatrix cable from tatrix.com, the Open Port 2 cable works really well, and they send it out. You know, ordering it from the States, for me in the UK, it takes about 2 days to get here, which is pretty amazing. Data log a lot. Understand what the data is, what data is useful, what data is not useful. But the smaller the number of data fields that you're collecting, the better the sample rate. So the more samples per second that the ECU will be able to send out. The data logging is really the key to understanding what's going on with your car as it is, and when you start to make changes, to understanding what the effect of those changes are having on the car, on the engine, on the performance. And obviously there's other things that you need to be doing as well, like deck cans. Make some deck cans. Don't tune without them. It's silly. Use a wideband, because the standard narrowband sensor is hopeless, or can be hopeless. Right, and leading on from that, perfect question from Hoongoons. Right, is there a way to data log the crank and cam signal for diagnostics, either using Cob or RunRadar? There is, but all it'll give you is a digital signal on and off, like 1 or 0. And because the crank sensor and the cam sensor signals are happening, you know, a lot, the actual sample rate in the data log won't be enough to catch every single one of them. If you're having issues with a crank sensor or a cam sensor, then it's a difficult one. Aftermarket ECUs like a Syvex or a Link will give you an oscilloscope type feature where you can actually see what's going on with the crank signal and the cam signal to see whether there's any issues, or it will bring up whether there's trigger errors that will sort of help you identify whether you got a problem or not. But on the standard software, it can log it, but it is next to useless, because you know, you think the crank sensor signal is going to be like probably 32,000 hertz or 32,000 signals at, you know, 1,000 RPM, so it's never going to do that. So I'm afraid that doesn't really help you. Right. Right. Pros and cons of a Link G4X ECU. Pros, well, compared to the standard ECU, is going to give you an ECU that is able to run MAFless properly. It's actually designed to run MAFless. You've got much cleaner and scalable sort of settings for map sensor, for revs. You can set all the parameters up. It's designed to do the job that you're asking it to do. Plus you've got lots of extra toys in there as well, like the launch control, anti-lag. You can feed sensors into it and tell it to go into limp mode if they're not sort of hitting exactly what you want them to be. So from a protection point of view, it's much better than the standard ECU, because you can take the inputs from oil temperature, oil pressure, those sort of things, and bring those in and set parameters in the ECU for it to say, right, if the oil temperature is too high, then, you know, put a lower rev limit in there or limit the boost. Cons, because it's an aftermarket ECU, and You know, Subaru spent an awful lot of time with the OEM ECU to set up things like cold start and sort of normal niceness that people rely on, or you know, people understand. And sort of, if it's not there, then people can kind of get irritated. But because it's an aftermarket ECU, that information isn't in there, so it needs to be set up for that. And you know, when you're mapping a car, you know, if the car arrives warm, then you've only got a best guess at what the cold start is going to be. So the ideal would be to see it again, you know, the next morning to see whether the cold start is good. Whether it's, you know, idle's too high at cold or idle's too low at cold. But, you know, those can be got round either by having the car for a few days and trying it. You only really get one cold start every half a day, or through remote desktop sort of applications, and actually encouraging you to have the software on a laptop and actually starting to be involved a little bit in the ECU itself. Right, let me have a little drink. Bum, bum, bum. Right. Hi, John. Right, hi, Duncan. What boost would you run on a VF23 on 95 RON E10? Is it better to target more boost and less timing, or vice versa? You're going to have to run less timing anyway, just because of the 95 RON. You can run some boost. You're not saying what engine or what car this is on, but let's say it's on a Blob IWRX, for example. You will probably find that VF23 at about 1.3 bar of boost will be enough to give you a good efficient setup on that. But then it's a case of increasing the ignition time until it starts to detonate, which will be quite early. On 95 it's not very good fuel. Why? I just question why you'd run it on 95 unless you've got no other alternative in the area. 95's really not very good. Right, hi Sol. When I go to ECU edit with the next computer, what are some of the features that I should be using to make life easier? Right, I will show you one of the main reasons that I use ECU edit rather than ROM Raider or ECU Flash. Right, if I go to my map top. Right, normally when you're looking at ignition timing, like the Subaru ECU, the standard ECU will have a base timing and a not correction. So it has these two maps, and the way that the ECU sort of works out what ignition timing to run for a particular load, i.e. the load along the top is effectively boost, revs down the side. So what it would do is, this is the base timing, and depending on what the advanced multiplier is, which is like a happiness scale for the ECU, on this particular car it's a Hawkeye WX, so that goes from 0 to 1. At 1, if it's happy, then it will add all of this to that value. So as you can see, this table looks like that. This one from standard is all over the place, looks very, very spiky. Adding those two together in ECU Flash and ROM Raider is impossible, but in ECU Edit you can just combine the two tables. There's a little calculator function, so map calculator. Add those two things to the calculator. Select an expression. So this says add map 1 to add to map 2, and then whatever the advanced multiplier is divided by 16. And that is the combined ignition table for the two. So you can see what it looks like from standard, or what the two tables added together are actually showing you or requesting off the ECU. So that's, you know, the nice 3D graph. It looks nice, it's really usable. If you want to make changes to this, let's say you're running on 95 RON fuel, you know, you'd select a range and then just take it down. Although that's not working. Why is that not working? Oh, my laptop's not working. Oh. Okay, well, you can plus or minus, and it will do it normally. Mine, for some reason, is not. I don't know why. Let me try it again. Right. Anyway, I won't go into that anymore. But it's for that feature alone, it is really useful, and you can select whether you want the adjustments to go onto the base timing map or onto the knock correction map. Generally speaking, I do it on the base timing map. So that's one of the main features. The data logging and the map changing, all being in the same place, is another really big reason. Right, fares, link ECU versions. What's the main difference? G4 Plus versus G4X. And they updated the processor on the G4X, and really annoyingly, the files from the G4 Plus couldn't be imported into G4X. You had to start again. So that was an absolute nightmare for all the tuners, myself included, that had built up base maps for, you know, a range of setup of cars over the years, and that all had to be thrown away or started again when the G4X came out. The Fury is for, you know, probably a different setup than normal. So generally speaking, for a plug and play Subaru, a G4 Plus or G4X is where you want to be. There will be a G5 at some point very soon, I believe. Right. How to prep before tuning? Just make sure it's not got any leaks. Make sure you've got oil in there, it's good oil. Make sure you've got fuel in there and it's good fuel. Just make sure it's in good working order, generally speaking. You know, if it's running on 3 cylinders, no mapper is going to be able to start the 4th cylinder up. It's, you know, if it's running on 4 cylinders, no major coolant or oil leaks, then you're probably good to go. I did a video on prepping for mapping. So that'll be in the history of, or on my page, and search through the videos. Right. Thoughts, if any, on COB access port? COB don't do the access port for the UK. I've tuned a couple of them for US servicemen up at the bases at Lake and Heath. They're okay. You know, it's quite nice that it's got a live tuning option, and then a save to the ECU thing. But I haven't tuned with them for years and years and years because we don't see them here. There were some big issues last year or the year before, I think it was, with the Green Speed initiative, whereby it overnight people were unable to switch off check engine lights for anything because of government regulations, and it got into a huge battle. It was the same with Ecotech over in the States, and I think that spurred a lot of people on to actually start open source tuning themselves. Right, I'll come back to that. Alright, in launch control, carburetor launch control, tables have got cut values of X and Y. Do you know which one is fuel and which one is ignition? Tried to check on the forums, not yet found out which is which. Would you by any chance know? Yes, I will message you on Discord, Zed, because I will need to sort of double check myself. But yeah, I'll put that on Discord. Yeah, perhaps boost leak as well. Yeah, so if you fitted a new front mount intercooler, after you've run it for a few days, it's always a good idea to retighten up the Jubilee clips that hold the intercooler sort of pipes in place. Or if you're having issues with the pipe slipping off, a little bit of hairspray on the inside of the silicon works absolute wonders. It just glues it solid. You won't have that issue ever again. So yeah, boost leaks are a good thing to solve before coming up to the dyno, because generally speaking, the pipe that's going to pop off is the one that's hardest to get to. It'll be under the engine with the clamp facing the wrong way. So yeah, it's good when you're fitting front mount pipes to actually understand how you would need to access that clamp easiest, and making sure that they're sort of accessible. Right. Right. What causes detonation, and can it be corrected with a map? It's a spark going off at the wrong time, basically. So it's either the fuel self-combusting in the cylinder under pressure or under heat, and it's really destructive. Generally it can be corrected in a map, unless you've got a really weird thing like one injector's flowing slightly weaker than the others, in which case you're going to really struggle to correct for that. You're going to struggle to know which one is weak and which ones are strong, unless you're sort of taking the plugs out after every few miles to check them. But generally speaking, lowering the ignition timing or increasing the amount of fuel will reduce detonation. But deck cans will tell you whether it's working or not, because the ECU, when it gives you the feedback knock, it doesn't always hear the detonation. I think I've proved that a few times now on the videos. Yeah, hairspray, I swear by it. On the inside of the silicon, it's like handlebar grips on BMX bikes or mountain bikes. So it slides, the pipe slides in perfectly, but as soon as you get a bit of heat in there, it just glues solid. Obviously, I don't need it for any other reason. I think back in the day when my car was blowing off intercooler pipes for, well, I would say fun, but it wasn't fun at the time. But clean up the inside of the silicon with some brake cleaner, and then a bit of hairspray in there, and it's done. Job done. Bum, bum. Greetings from southern Italy. Hello. Very nice, but it's a little bit warmer there than it is here at the moment. It's bloody freezing. What lowering centimetres should you replace the rear training arms? Yeah, it's difficult. The anti-squat is probably not an awful lot to do with the rear arms. It's to do with the spring rate and the damping, and the fact that the front lifts up, so that automatically makes it squat. Yeah, I don't think I know the answer to that. The standard training arms are great, and the aftermarket ones are exactly the same dimensions, so it doesn't really change anything, and they're not doing anything apart from holding things in the right place. So the dampers and the springs will be the things that you need to sort of work on. And if you're getting too much lean, then you can obviously change pickup points with like changing the rear subframe to one that's got sort of pickup points that are slightly higher up on the inside. Bum, bum, bum. Brand hairspray, Silver Croon, I think it was. Maximum hold. Hi Rob. I hope you're good. Yes, I am. Friend's got a standard Hawkeye WRX import 2 litre. Can he get a switchable map as he's wanting? Slight pop and bang map. Yeah, it is possible on the ECU to have it switchable. It's a different bit of software. You can either do it on ECU Tech, or you can use an open source sort of mod like MertMod or DimeMod. I would probably towards the ECU Tech Race ROM, but lots of people use DimeMod and MertMod. Excuse me. But yes, it is possible. Right, hi Neil. 2.5 running a VF43 at 1.2 bar, 360 horsepower. Is there much more left in the turbo if I've got bigger injectors, dark blue maxed out? No, basically. 1.2 bar, if it's holding 1.2 bar at the top, which it probably isn't quite, you can force more boost, but it doesn't make any more power in my experience. It's going outside of the comfort zone for that turbo, so it just generates heat. I've tried it on my Hawkeye STI back in the day by fitting a 3-port and jamming the wastegate shut a little bit, and it didn't work. You get more boost, but you don't get any more power from it. So I'd say if you want more power, then fit a bigger turbo, a VF400 on there with some 750cc injectors or 1050s, because they're the same price and they flow perfectly fine at low pulse widths. Then that'd be a good option. But if it's a standard engine, I probably wouldn't do that. So if it's standard pistons in there, then certainly keep it at the 360. Right, thoughts on a blob-eyed WRX 5-speed JDM box. For my build, should I swap to a 6-speed, hoping to run 330? No, the 5-speed would be fine for that. The nice thing about 5-speed boxes, they are light, they are cheap, and quite easily available, or commonly available, so you can get hold of them in case you break it. But a standard WRX 5-speed should be fine at that sort of power level. unless you're brutal with it. But yeah, it really does work. If you have a problem with pipes popping off, try a bit of hairspray on the inside. It solves the problem. Oh yeah, I feel for you with Irish fuel. It's bad, really bad. Octane booster. No, I haven't done that video yet. It's yeah, time consuming, and I haven't. No one wants to see that video on the Forester SH. I've been waiting for the STI to be finished, but I've got another cunning little plan. So short answer is no, I haven't done the video, but long answer is there will be a video. Standard bottom end, am I right? 2007 2.5 shares, crank rods with the STI, just different pistons. Yeah, the pistons, even the STI pistons aren't strong, so even if that was an STI standard bottom end, I wouldn't be taking that above 360 unless you're fully aware of the consequences that it is a very good chance that it might die. Right, ethanol content. When mapping for maximum performance, do you have different strategies? It depends whether you're talking about ethanol or methanol, and they are two different types of alcohol. Ethanol works really well on E85. It is the perfect fuel, I think, for Subarus. There's just enough petrol in there for it to lubricate the cylinders, and there's plenty of alcohol and octane in there, plus the oxygen, for it to make whatever power that the turbo is capable of providing. Yeah, E85 works amazingly. Methanol, I probably wouldn't go above 50. Going above 50 and it is incredibly corrosive, and you've got to be adding in things like sort of lubrication into the fuel, just to sort of stop the cylinders destroying themselves. You'll even find that with the 85. I used to find it was, as soon as you switch the engine off, the cylinders are completely dry of oil. So when I used to take the race car engine out, take that out, and by the time I got the heads off, the inside of the bores had rusted. Quite weird stuff. Hi Sam. Right, asked last week about 102 octane fuel in Germany, but for the trip there, can I use 98? Yeah, why not? If it's just the absolutely dreadfully dull, boring drive through Belgium on the crappiest motorway known to man, where they don't maintain it at all and it's horrific, shaking your bones off, then yeah, why not? 98 if you're cruising, as long as you're not giving it full beans. But as soon as you get there, chuck the 102 Aral in. There's a petrol station sort of about 5 miles before you get to Nuremberg. If you're doing the Autobahn route, then the temptation to go full throttle on the Autobahn might not be the best idea on 98 unless it's mapped on 98. Right, hi David. Alright, I'm good, yeah. PCV removed, turbo inlet ports blocked, all hoses from crank and valve covers vent to atmosphere. And do you need to rescale the MAF? No. No, all that will be doing is effectively now you won't be getting oil vapour that goes into the manifold. The oil vapour has an effect that it reduces the octane, or the effective octane of the fuel. So you might find with the catch can setup now, you might be able to add a little bit more ignition timing. If you're not changing the map, then all it's going to do is give you a little bit more safety margin in the map. But you won't need to rescale the MAF sensor. Right, hi Sean, sorted misfire, good. New core packs, car is feeling good again, no hesitation, superb. Getting up to motorway speeds, higher gears, seems like it's losing boost, smoke tested intake, no leaks. Could it be blow off valve? Yeah, it could be, or it could be something else going on. Check the blow off valve for leaks or any other leaks. If it's not that, then bring it back and we'll see whether the ECU is telling us something. What will be the weak point? Cylinders or piston ringlands? They are weak on those. Also, the head gaskets on the 2.5, the standard head gaskets, are prone to going quite easily. The 750cc injectors, they're not a standard Subaru electrical connector. The ones that I'm talking about are like ID 750s. I'm not even sure whether they make them anymore, to be honest, or the ID 1050s. They have a different connector on there, but you can buy loom adapters. Be a bit controversial here, but don't buy the ICP ones. They are absolutely shocking. The RCM loom adapters for those work brilliantly. The ICP ones, you get intermittent misfires for them. I've had that many times because the pins are different sizes and they just rattle around in the female pin. There's a lot of jokes that I could say, but I'd probably get taken off air by YouTube. Yeah, so the 750cc injectors, the larger injectors, tend to be a different plug connector. You can get the standard blue injectors modified by effectively taking off the filter off the end of the injector, and that increases the flow to about 850-ish cc per injector, but the spray pattern isn't particularly good, so you can get issues at idle. Hi Ollie, how you doing? Hope you made it back all right. Good idea to purchase an air oil separator or catch can. It's probably not necessary. It's not going to do any harm, but it's not needed. If you wanted to push the power up a little bit, then it might become more needed. But still not particularly needed unless you're absolutely cane it around or going on track. Yeah, ICP sells some really good bits, and the majority of the bits that I use day in day out are from ICP, but these particular loom adapters are not good, so I'd just say avoid. They are the source of many a misfire, or an intermittent misfire, which is the worst kind. I think there's about 4 or 5 cars that I've seen where they have been the issue. It is great fun, yeah, but power's addictive. Unless you set a firm limit, I do not want to go above 400, or I do not want to go above 450, or whatever it is, and just be happy with it at that point. 350, I think, or 360 in your case, Neil, I think is the perfect sort of power level. Alright, as we're talking injectors, just got the parallel fuel rails and big parallel fuel lines and bigger rails, and the conversion to top feed. Yeah, that's worth doing. The side feed injectors were in the Forester STI and the like the GC8s. Going to bigger injectors that are side feeds, the spray patterns on those are horrific, and they've got a really annoying habit of the end caps falling off the injectors, which then completely floods the cylinder with fuel and can hydrolock it, bending rods, causing all kinds of damage. Not saying it's going to happen or it's any particular manufacturer's injectors, but I've seen it happen, and therefore if you were wanting to go bigger injectors, I would always recommend the top feed injectors, because the top feed, particularly the ID 1050s, are probably my favourite injector because they're just so reliable, and even idling at 800 RPM, you know, the spray pattern's nice on those and you can get a really efficient idle. Yeah, you've had 4 of those go. I've replaced loads. The ideal is to just cut the ends off or take the pins out, the standard ones, and repin the proper connector with the proper terminals on it, because, you know, ultimately a loom adapter, you've got another 2 failure points in there, so it's better to just wire it hardwired directly. Right, pinks. Right, do pinks and blues 565 good for 350? Yeah, you on a 2 litre you can get about 400 horsepower out of pinks or the dark blues. They flow the same. They're actually scaled in the map at 552, whether they're the pinks or the dark blues, whether they're 565s or 550s or 552s. It makes no difference. They are absolutely identical. They should make 350 on a 2.5, 360 at a push. To get more than that out of them, you're into the realms of a fuel pressure regulator and upping the fuel pressure a bit. But if it's on a 2 litre, then it should be able to sort of do that if your fuel system's healthy. Been rebuilt not long back with RCM head gasket. Yeah, good head gaskets. Probably stick with the 360 instead of stripping it again. 360 with 402 pounds a foot. It's still fun, but you'd like to be in the 400 club. You are in the 400 club. Pounds per foot is what counts. That's the acceleration you feel. The brake horsepower is you know, not quite as relevant. When I used to have dyno days, I used to do like a leaderboard where it was the combined figure, so torque and horsepower, and I thought that gave a better view as to how quick the car was completely. Right, how are we doing? Have I answered everyone's question? Right, I think I'm up to date. So if there's any more questions coming through, then great, fire them at me. Generally speaking, I cap these at an hour unless people run out of questions beforehand. If there's anything you want me to show you on the map top, I can do that. But yeah, okay, right. Boom, 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 boom. Right, rotated 62, 66 Gen 1. 250cc E85. Half-inch head stars, 280 cams. Can you break the 700 wheel? Yeah, wheel horsepower is a bit of a weird one. You know, it's an American fascination, but their wheel horsepower figures don't equate to our wheel horsepower figures here in the UK on the dynos that we use the majority of the time. 700 wheel on E85, probably high 700 brake horsepower here in the UK, probably 750, 760. Yeah, you should be able to, on a 62, 66, probably 2 and a bit bar of boost, it should do that with the cams. As long as you've got enough of a rev limit, then the cams will open that up. It'll be a bit spluttery at the bottom end with 280 cams, but if that's on a 2.5, then yeah, you're gonna want to hope that the bottom end will hold the high revs, because I think you'll need the high revs to do that. Boom, boom, boom. Liam, right, some difference between the DIT FAEs and the older port injection FAEJs when it comes to tuning. Subaru, in their infinite wisdom, decided to abandon the UK back in 2017. The only FA engine cars that we've had here are in the BRZ and BRZ, and quite frankly, tuning those is incredibly disappointing, because NA, you're getting 5-10 horsepower out of it. Not a lot of point in doing that for the cost of tuning it. Some of the Foresters, new Foresters, are coming in with the DIT, but we have to wait now until we can bring in the JDM cars here that are FA and turboed. But an engine is an engine. It needs air, it needs fuel, it needs the right time to explode the two things. So ignition timing, tuning wise, you get a better spray pattern. Obviously with the DIT, it's more direct. They are, from what I've seen, much more liable to having a lot of knock activity going on, but the ECUs are more advanced, so they can cope with it and they kind of adapt themselves around it. But I have to say, when it comes to FA turbo engine cars, not done one. Because I think there's probably one in the UK. Right, buying a VF400 is a great turbo. Going over to SDI headers and the Harvey small diameter pipe. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, the RCM GT spec 2 headers are great. They look shiny, they look lovely, but they are really prone to cracking, particularly if you wrap them. And I believe that this isn't just RCM. This is, all the GT spec headers, whether they be laterals or wherever else puts their name on the same set of Chinese factory GT spec headers. They're all coming from the same factory. They've just got a different name on the box. the pipework's too big and it makes the turbo a little bit laggy. Needed if you got a big turbo and you want big power, but for most normal people, sort of 300 to 450 horsepower, and the standard headers are great. Just give them a little bit of a tickle to port them out a little bit. Oh yeah, it's been about 8 months since my map. Do you recommend getting maps checked as more wear occurs on the engines? I've had customers coming back to me sort of, they come back every couple of years and get me to check the map. The map doesn't change, and the cars don't wear out. It's only if sensors start degrading or changing, but that generally sort of shows itself in other issues. So you might feel that it's hesitating a little bit, in which case, yeah, bring it back. It's worth getting it checked out rather than trying to drive through an issue. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't do it every year, as much as it would be great to have customers coming back to me every year for a checkup. It would feel a little bit like robbery from my point of view. And I've had customers bring cars back that I've mapped 12, 13 years ago and they've been absolutely spot on. Forester XD. Just a quick one about dual maps on the heated rear screen button. How is that done? Generally with the Race ROM and ECU Tech software, or the ECU Tech Race ROM software, you can swap to a higher boost or however your mapper has set it up, by holding full throttle and pressing the rear demist, which should flash the engine light a couple of times to say that you're into the higher boost map. It's difficult to know which one you're in. In fact, it's impossible to know which one you're in until you're in it and putting your foot down. Can be quite annoying if you're prone to street racing or obviously in a controlled environment. You don't know which boost map you're in until you're actually putting your foot down, and by then it can be too late. I'm not a great fan of them, to be perfectly honest, from using the rear demist. With the later Race ROM software, you can use the dongle, like Bluetooth Ecotech dongle, and the Ecotech software, and change maps on the software, which is quite a nice feature. So if you've got your phone mounted on the dashboard, you can change the boost, or even things like launch control and those sort of things. Quite a nice feature, but the Bluetooth dongle is not cheap. Off the top of my head, it's about £200. Right, how are we doing? Right, I think I'm up to date with the questions. If there's anything else, there is. Yeah, right. 07 WX US domestic market, warm up log, intermittently missing on 2 and especially 4, well below freezing out. Yeah, could be an awful lot of things causing that. I would probably start from the inside outwards and get the potentially nasty news out the way by doing a compression check. So check all 4 cylinders, or a leak down test, which is probably going to tell you a little bit more about what the issue is. It may well be like valve seats on that size that are causing an issue, or it could be something like a ringland damage on that side that are causing an issue, or it could be an air leak. It could be an awful lot of things, but if you start from the inside out, from an engine health point of view, if the compression's all even, then all good. You can go to less dramatic things going outwards. How much for? Yeah, on a JDM Forester A3 Auto, those 4-speed auto transmission boxes about 350, 360 before the transfer starts to object. The 5 speeds I think are a little bit more. Right, okay, I'm going to call it. That's the end of the session. Thank you very much for your questions and for your attention. If you've lasted a whole hour, well done. If you've got any other questions, pop them in the comments below and I will get back to every single one of them. Thank you.